So at the start of March, I met a friend in London and we spent 7 days doing a lot of sightseeing, but primarily antique shopping. And I brought a whole bunch of fun stuff back with me. Since then, I have had a ton of questions from viewers here and over on my social media channels about how did I pull this off. So this video today is for you. I'm gonna share my tips for how I planned that trip, how I got my stuff home, and how maybe you could do something similar yourself. So for some of you, you may be travel pros. And if you are, this video probably isn't for you, but I know that there is a whole huge amount of other people that would love to travel, but maybe that muscle is just a little weak. To be completely honest with you, I struggle with logistics and planning. So not only was this going to be a trip for me outside of the US, it's been a long time since I've done that by myself, but I also was going to be buying things and bringing them back home. So I'm not gonna lie, the process of planning this trip was a little bit stressful. So if that resonates with you at all, I think this video is gonna be helpful for you. I'm gonna walk you through my process and just share just some really basic tips. So hopefully you can get the confidence to plan a trip like this yourself. Okay, so let's start with the planning phase. Of course, the first thing that you wanna do is you wanna pick your destination. England, France, and Hungary are all popular destinations for antique buying trips if you're heading to Europe. I picked England simply because London was where I studied abroad and I have always wanted to go back. Once you nail your destination down, I am going to recommend that you stick to a major city. Getting around a large European city is really pretty easy because they have fantastic public transportation. So I'm an American suburban woman. I don't even have public transportation here where I live. I drive everywhere in my car. I bet a lot of you watching are going to be like me. And so maybe you haven't experienced a really great public transportation system. These big European cities, they've got it nailed down. It's very easy to navigate. You're going to have a really easy time getting around. My friend and I toyed around with the idea of renting a car and trying to get outside of the cities to some of these smaller cities, smaller fares, but to be honest, again, that just felt pretty daunting for us. We weren't quite ready to do that. So if you stick to a city, yes, you're gonna be paying a little bit more for the stuff you're buying because city prices are always higher, but you're going to be able to get everywhere you need using public transportation. So once you know where you're gonna go, it's time to obviously start doing your research. What I did was I looked for antique fairs, antique markets, vintage markets, and I also looked for charity shops. So those were the search terms that I put into Google Maps. Went to London, pulled that up, and started typing in and let it search that area for me. So charity shop is the term for thrift store that they use. An antique fair or antique market is what a lot of these markets are that we went to. YouTube is another great place to search for those things. We found markets kind of all over the city and also a couple specific antique stores that we wanted to go to. I found some great YouTube videos about them. That was kind of what started the itinerary, was we found the main markets and events that we wanted to go to, and we mapped out what days they were happening. So for example, Old Spitalfield's market on Thursday is the day that they have vintage vendors there. So when we're putting our itinerary together, Thursday we made sure we marked that off for Spitalfields. Once you have those shopping events on your calendar, then you can fill in the rest of your itinerary with your sightseeing. Now what we did, we shopped mostly in the morning, and then if we were heading over to this area of the city to kind of shop, then we would sightsee in this area of the city. And while we were walking around, we would open up Google Maps on our phone. And again, just type in right where we are, charity shop, vintage store, antique store. And sometimes there would just be things that were popping up as we were walking to the National Gallery or as we were walking to Buckingham Palace. We'd be passing by something. That's how we found a couple of the amazing bookstores that we went into in my other video. As you're sightseeing, utilize the fantastic tool of Google Maps because you never know what you'll find just kind of wandering around the city. Hey guys, I want to take just a second and tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Craftsy. It is your online source for all things creative. Maybe you're not in a place where you can travel right now and instead are looking for some more in-home inspiration. Craftsy could be a fantastic thing for you then. They have over 2,000 classes available in 20 different categories categories of crafts, so there is always something new that you can learn on Craftsy. So while I was in London, I found several gorgeous watercolor prints, and I've always wanted to learn how to watercolor for myself, but I definitely need someone to show me how to do it. I am not good at just creating things myself. So thankfully on Craftsy, there are several intro to watercolor classes, and I have added those to my list of summer plans. So there's also a class on Craftsy about baking French macarons. I would love to try that. That's something else I've always wanted to learn how to do. So if painting or baking isn't your thing, then what about knitting, quilting, drawing, or even cake decorating? There are a ton of classes on Craftsy for all of those topics. Craftsy is made for curious people who love to learn new things. And if that sounds like you, I have an amazing offer to share with you today. So the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in this video description box will get a full year of a premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49. So as a premium member, along with access to all the amazing existing Craftsy classes, you'll get access to live stream classes where you can ask questions of the instructors in real time. So this is an amazing deal. I need to point out that it's available to new members only. But again, you can find the link to join down in this video description box. So I hope for $1.49, you go give Craftsy a try, and I'm excited to hear about all of the new fun hobbies and skills that you're gonna learn. Let's talk a little bit now about actually shopping for items and transporting your items. First off, you want to have cash with you when you're going to these larger antique markets. Just like in the US, if you have cash, you're able to negotiate a little bit more. So a tip for travel is to wait to take out cash until you get into the country. And you don't want to do it at the airport or one of the places that is advertising money exchange. Usually those have the not so great rates. What you want to do is you want to find just a local bank that has an ATM. That's going to give you the best exchange rate when you're taking cash out in the country. You don't want to find just a random ATM somewhere or a specific money exchange place. Typically, those are going to charge you higher fees and you're going to get a worse rate. Tip number 2, do not be afraid to negotiate. I found several vendors that really wanted to dicker with me back and forth, and I could work prices down from 25 pounds to 5 pounds on some items. I also found some other vendors that they didn't want to, and that was fine. Be sure to ask if you're out at these large markets, not necessarily when you're in an antique store or a thrift store, but when you're in a large antique fair or antique market, don't be afraid to negotiate and ask for a lower price. So the line that I used was, it cost me a plane ticket to get over here and buy this, so you need to give me a deal. And I got a couple great deals using that line. So let's go back to the idea of public transportation. When we were there, we took the tube or the London subway everywhere we went. And it's fantastic. It's a great system. It's convenient. But again, public transportation and getting around a city that way is very different than shopping at home. So if you're like me, you go to an estate sale or you go to a flea market, you drive your car there, you park, you go and you buy what you want, you bring it back to your car, drive your car home, pull it right into your garage and unload it. That is not how it's going to be working when you're schlepping around these European cities with the stuff that you bought. So for example, the Airbnb that we stayed at was about 3/4 of a mile from our starting tube stop, the one we used every day. Then quite often when we got off the tube stop, we were walking another half a mile to a mile, sometimes longer, to get to our destination. So you are literally carrying things that you have bought 1 to 2 miles every time you make a trip. So you have to bring some way to transport your stuff as you're going around the city. So you can use a nice travel backpack. If you want to take just an empty rolling suitcase, you can do that. Sometimes on older European cobblestone streets, those don't necessarily roll too well. Or you could try some sort of collapsible cart, something that folds up like this. Really what it came down to though was being smart about what I was buying. Like I would look at it and think, I've got to carry this around for a while. So another one of the questions that I got was, how did I know what to look for? How did I know what I was shopping for? Wasn't it overwhelming with so many different things to buy? So a tip that I have for you, and what I did myself, is to focus on the things that you can't find at home or that you don't see at home. So for me, that was this great little stuffed pajama dog. That was something that I've never seen before. It was some antique cigarette cards. So like I brought home this little London double-decker toy bus. That was a great item because not only was it a fun collectible, but it was also a souvenir from the location. So if you keep those things in mind, that'll kind of help keep you focused while you're out shopping. Which leads me to kind of the last section of tips that I want to share with you, and that is about getting your stuff back home. You need focus because you can't take it all home with you. Now, I want to clarify that this is not a video teaching you how to start an international antique importing business. That is not what I did in this trip. That is not the expertise that I have. What we're talking about here is you're going by yourself, or you're going with a friend or a group, and you want to buy some things while you're there. Maybe you're going to sell some of the things, maybe you're going to keep some of the things, maybe you're going to do a mix of both. This is not you're beginning a new importing business. I just want to be clear on that. That is a whole other ball game, and that's not what I did this trip. That's not what I'm going to share with you guys about. So even though we're just talking about buying some items, you still got to figure out how to get them back home. So this is exactly what I did. I took with me a carry-on bag that had my clothes in it, and then I took an extra empty suitcase. And in that empty suitcase, I put bubble wrap, some packing paper, and some packing tape. All right, so let's talk packing up my stuff for this trip. So I found this incredible bag online, and I'm going to share it with you guys and link it down in the comments. It's from a company called Calpac. And it's made of recycled material. No, they are not sponsoring this video. I found this bag and I purchased it myself. But it is a collapsible duffel bag. But what I really like about it is that you can convert it to have these backpack straps. So this is going to be my carry-on bag. I get one carry-on bag for free. And my clothes are going to go in this on the way over there. And then on the way home, hopefully I'll have some room also in this carry-on bag for things that are heavy or that maybe are really fragile that I want to take care of. So with my airline tickets that I had, I got one free checked bag. So in that empty suitcase, it could travel over there for free and travel back home for free. And I could fill it with up to 50 pounds worth of items and have no fee charged. So taking your items back and forth with you on the plane is by far going to be your cheapest option. Another tip that somebody gave me before I went that I loved and was a game changer is to take clothes with you on these kinds of trip that are clothes you don't really care about, clothes that are older clothes, or clothes from the thrift store. That's what I did. Most of my clothes were thrifted, so I wasn't super cute while I was out and about, but I was able to leave those clothes there. And then that gave me more room to get more stuff back home. Also, if you're taking clothes that you don't really care about, you can use those clothes to wrap fragile items in your big empty suitcase. So if I'm bringing home something that's kind of old and a little dirty, I don't want to wrap that up in some of my nice clothes. But if I've got some thrifted stuff I don't really care about, that's a perfect use for it, to use it as kind of wrapping and packing material. All right, so I thought I'd show you guys my going home packing. This is my big suitcase, and yes, there's just a variety of things in here, but like here is a plate wrapped up in some bubble wrap, and a shirt, one of the vintage bears I've got, something wrapped up in here, lots of things wrapped up in clothes. And then over here on this side, I've got the vintage leather jacket that I got, some bags that I brought, and there's art kind of stacked over here again with bubble wrap. So this bag needed to be under 50 pounds, and I have weighed it using one of these handy weights. It's not like, it's still probably 6 pounds under, which is good because this isn't like super accurate. It's close enough. So I wanted to get it probably no more than 45 pounds. And then this bag is where it's gonna be my carry-on. I've got some clothes in here, and then I have my most valuable things and my most kind of breakable things, the things that I really don't want to lose, the things that cost me the most money. I've also got some heavy items in here, some books, and this I'll be taking with me on the plane. Another kind of packing tip, this whole pile of clothes right here is going to stay, And I'm gonna leave a note for the owner of the Airbnb that they can either donate them or toss them out. They are just clothes that I've thrifted, or this is an old pair of jeans. And having this, like, it saves me some packing room. This is, you know, stuff that I don't have to take home, weight that I don't have to deal with in the bag. So that's the plan. Now I just have to get myself to the tube station, but I think we're gonna be good. So again, my ticket allowed me one free suitcase. I could have paid, I think it was an additional $50 to get another suitcase back, which would have been a pretty viable option, still cheaper than shipping things. So my backup plan, if I ran out of room, was to buy a suitcase over there, fill it up, pay the $50 fee, and take 2 suitcases back home with me on the plane. I didn't wind up needing to do that. I was able to fit everything I needed into my carry-on and my empty suitcase. So what about shipping stuff? Jamie Ray Vintage has some great videos about traveling to England. She does often ship boxes back home. And so I'm going to point you to those videos for, you know, discussion of some of her shipping. Here's why I didn't ship stuff back. I'm not in a car able to just drive right up to my local UPS store with my giant boxes. Anything that I have, I'm transporting around on public transport. So if I have these 50-pound boxes that I have packaged up that I'm going to ship back home, I'm carrying those, again, close to a mile to the tube stop, through the tube stop, and then another mile there. Or I'm calling a cab and I'm trying to get those into the cab. It just changes things when you're using public transport. I wasn't sure that I would be able to get to a shipping location or to transport heavy boxes to a shipping location. That's why I decided to take everything home with me just in my suitcase. So another thing that you need to understand is the customs limit for traveling back inside the US. Now, I'm gonna be honest, the information on this is a little murky and it's not super clear. The clearest information that I could find was that as an airline passenger coming back into the US, I was allowed $800 worth of items that I would not have to declare. That was my shopping budget, was $800. And I wound up spending, I think, about $653. I did have it all typed out on my phone, everything that I bought, but it was really hard to kind of prove value because I was, you know, doing cash deals with people at flea markets. I didn't have receipts, but I did keep track of what I bought, and I had that $800 limit in mind. Now, since I'm a reseller, some of the stuff I brought home, I have sold. Some of it I have not. Some of it I may sell or I may keep for several years and then sell. So the rules on kind of the commercial merchandise and bringing stuff back, again, it's just kind of hard to nail some of it down. And I do try to do things by the book and follow the rules. So that's why, for me, I said, you know what, I'm just gonna have that $800 cap as just kind of my mark that I wanna stay under. That's going to be my shopping budget. And again, that's why this is not an importing video. If you wanna start a legitimate antique importing business, you're gonna be needed bringing back significantly more volume than that, which means you're getting into customs duties and filing customs paperwork, which is honestly something I don't have experience with. One thing that I do want to point out though, as you're shopping, you need to make sure that you don't bring home anything that at one point was alive. So any sort of antlers or taxidermy, any sort of shells, any, you know, jewelry that has any sort of shell work on it, all of that kind of stuff, from my understanding, is prohibited under US customs laws from coming back into the country. So that was my packing strategy to get things home. I used my big empty suitcase. I had to keep it under 50 pounds. I left a bunch of my thrift store clothes there, and the clothes that I did bring back, I used to wrap up items and put them in my suitcase. A couple more quick ending, just kind of rapid fire tips about saving money and making this a little bit more budget friendly. I traveled in what would be called shoulder season. So not peak season, but just kind of slightly off peak season. And that helped my airline flights be a little bit cheaper. Now, I also used miles for my airline flights. So I have a credit card that I use for my business. That is what I buy paint for the paint that I resell, some other business expenses. It gets paid off every month, but over time that credit card has accrued some miles. And so that is actually what bought my ticket. And then I only owed, I believe it was a $200 fee for the international travel. So that made it really pretty affordable to get there and back. I also went with a friend and we found an Airbnb that was a little bit on the outskirts of town, not quite right in the middle of the hustle and bustle of everything. And because I went with a friend and not with my spouse or somebody else in my family, we were able to split that fee right down the middle. That definitely helped save some money. And we also had a little kitchenette. There was a grocery store right around the corner, so we could walk around the corner, get groceries, and have breakfast, pack a lunch with us. That all helped save money as well. Now, I had some people give me some feedback over on my social media that because I shopped in London, I probably paid more money for the things that I found. And I'm sure that that is true. But again, I tried to find unique items at good prices and I negotiated as best as I could. And I also, again, wanted just to take advantage of the public transport and not kind of get in over my head. You're really, really concerned about the prices of items when you're doing some abroad shopping. Of course, if you can get out of the cities and more out into the smaller towns, you are going to pay less for stuff than you will in the big city. So I am by no means an expert in this. Again, I just wanted to make this video to answer the questions that I have been getting. So that was my process. And I want to say, like, it was great. I had a fantastic trip. I got everything back home. Nothing broke. I loved the stuff that I bought. There were a couple days where my arms got tired from carrying things around town, but it really was fantastic. And because I have gone now and done it this way, I think if I go back, that I would be ready to try venturing out a little bit more. I have kind of flexed that travel muscle. It's gotten a little bit stronger. I feel a little bit more comfortable navigating just another country. So if I go back again, maybe I can try renting a car and venturing outside to some of these further away antique fairs and antique markets. I don't know, we'll see if I get to go back. I appreciate you guys being here today. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you haven't watched my other London shopping videos, there's 2 published already and there's 2 more that are coming soon. Thanks so for watching this one today. If you've got anything to share, be sure to head in the comments and I'll see you back again soon.